for all.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Kay, I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
I don't know what happened. Did I?
But the good news is that we can hear you.
That's the video.
Okay,
Now.
we can see you now.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for being here on this wet Wednesday. Or I have to keep reminding myself that it's not Tuesday. I don't know if the rest of you are going through that or not. We'll go ahead and get started with our meeting. Our meeting theme is it the Indianapolis 500? The 105th running of the Indianapolis 500. So it's amazing that many additions. And we will go ahead and get started with our meeting by introducing our word of the day.
All right.
And we will let Lauren introduce our word of the day. Please help me welcome Lauren.
Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, my name is Lauren Eilman. I work at Travel and Leisure, and today I'm the grammarian. So our word for the day is spectacle. It's a noun, meaning something exhibited to view as unusual, notable, or especially entertaining, an eye-catching or dramatic public display. Used in a sentence, it sounds like this. With over a century of history and traditions, the Indianapolis 500 is known as the greatest spectacle in racing. For myself, I did not go to the race this year, but I did get to see the spectacle that was racing via TV. And now with technology, it's so great because the last 2 years I've watched it outside by my neighbor's pool, just sitting by the pool, but we have the TV outside and that's actually a more enjoyable experience, I think, than having to be at the race where it's a little hot, you can't get any shade. So I like being able to be at home by a pool watching the race.
Thank you, Lauren. I can't understand why you don't want to sit through hours of traffic to get there and to leave as well. I'm not sure what's not pleasant about that. Becky.
Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, my name is Becky Demland. Today I will be the scheduled speaker. Regarding the theme, I too, like Lauren, enjoyed watching the race at home. It's a rare treat for us here in Central Indiana to have the blackout lifted and be able to watch it at the same time. I did miss the spectacle of the infield crowds that we usually see. I oftentimes enjoy seeing some of the pictures of the outrageous behavior and clothing choices that are made in the infield. Looking forward to a return for that next year. Mr. President.
Thank you, Becky. I appreciate that. Ben.
Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, my name is Ben Hale. I work at Wound Vision. Today I will be acting as the timer and want to confirm that Becky's speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Great. I will be using this app, which at the different times will actually show on a little circle here the different color. So it'll be, for Becky's speech, it'll turn green at 5 minutes, yellow at 6, and red at 7. I'll also time the table topics, which will turn green at 1 minute, 1.5 minutes will be yellow, and then red at 2 minutes. I do love that the word of the day is spectacle to go with the Indy 500, and I do love the irony of using that greatest spectacle in racing, as Becky spoke about earlier, how not only is the race notable, especially entertaining, but certainly the crowds are quite unusual, as the definition explains. Mr. President.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow Toastmasters, my name is John Dosman. Reporting to you today from clinical architecture where I work. I will be evaluating Becky's speech today. I will be mostly looking for her clarity, her vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, how aware she is of her audience, her general comfort level of speaking, how interested she is, and on her topic of choice. She will be speaking today on understanding her leadership style. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Shweta.
Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, today I'm Shweta Karel, and today I will be, I have the role of being a humorist or a greeter. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Shweta. Appreciate that. Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Kirk Stossel. I work for Next Gear Capital, part of Cox Automotive. Today, I will be your generally evaluator, so I will be watching everyone all meeting long, be on your best behavior. That's especially for you, Brandon. I do not typically watch the greatest spectacle in racing. However, I did have quite the spectacle at my house yesterday because we had 6 trees taken down. Others got to take part in the spectacle too. I noticed they were maybe 10 minutes into their work, and surely the noise was filling the neighborhood. We live at the back end of a cul-de-sac, and another cul-de-sac butts up, and a dad came over with his young son. He looked to be about 3-4 years old, and I'm sure the son heard it and wanted to know what was going on, and the dad brought him over, and they took part in the spectacle occurring in our backyard as well. And I was glad that we could help put on a show and occupy his kid for a little bit of time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Kirk. Appreciate that. Kay. You're on mute, Kay.
Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, my name is Kay Patel. I'm a retired physician. Today I'm going to be a table topic person. I have a few questions related to the Indy 500, the greatest spectacle in racing. It's so ironic that in my book club in the month of May, we read a book which was a fictional mystery called Kiss the Bricks. And it gave me a lot of in-depth analysis of what goes behind the scene, how the teams prepare, and what other things go as far as so many other aspects in racing that we only don't see, just except the driver and racing around. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Kay. Appreciate that. Usually when I hear the word spectacle, I'm often reminded of instructions that my mom would give to myself and my siblings when we would perhaps go to my uncle's house on Memorial Day. He had a pool. We were told strictly not to make sure that we did not make a spectacle of ourselves while we were visiting family. Otherwise, we knew there would be trouble for us. Thus, we tried to go along with that. I've gone to the race many times, but usually I've been working. In fact, I've never been to the race as a spectator. My father-in-law worked for a company where he needed help during the race time. I would go there and help him. My wife would go there and help him as well. It was interesting being at the track at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and seeing how things change as you get into the early hours of the day. It definitely is a spectacle seeing all the different individuals. It's an amazing group. I will act as your Toastmaster for today's meeting. I will also act as the odd number table topic evaluator to give John a little bit of a break to respond to some of those or evaluate some of those responses. At this time, we will go ahead and move on with our meeting. As noted earlier, we have an experienced speaker today, a young lady that has presented to us many times. Looking forward to what she has to share with us today. In Becky's speech today, she will share with us her experiences as a manager and the creator of lots of bad ideals. In fact, she recently published an article on LinkedIn about the value of bad ideals in our quest to be innovators. Today, she'll share with us how her penchant for ideation and sharing of all ideals is an important part of her leadership style. Please help me welcome Becky Demlin today with Leading with Bad Ideals, Leading with Bad Ideals, Becky Demlin.
What kind of leader am I? Good question. As I crossed into level 2 of the visionary communications pathway, I was asked to complete an assessment answering all kinds of questions about how I work with others, not unlike all the relationship quizzes in Cosmo magazine. How did I do? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, from my quiz scores and my own personal assessment, I suggest that I am an authoritative coach who leads with bad ideas. Let me break that down for you. According to Pathways, I score equally high between the authoritative style of leading and the coaching style. I don't have to dig too deep to unpack those results. I score high in authoritative style because I'm a decision maker. I don't have to make all the decisions, but I am the one on the team who is always prepared to make a decision if the team stalls, if they're mired in uncertainty. In my gut, I always have a feeling that we're better off when we're moving forward. And if a decision needs to be made to keep us moving forward, I'm always prepared to do it. Is that decision always right? No. But I do believe forward movement is always better, even if we have to take a detour down the road as a result. Being called a coach, though, is a label that I welcome so much more because I try to lead with that style in everything I do. I'm not a perfect coach, and I'm not always confident as a coach. I have managed lots of teams over the years, from small teams with great skill and knowledge to large, diverse teams with various levels of experience. What I've learned is that every person truly is different, and the job of an effective manager increases exponentially with each additional person added to the team. Get ready for this next part because it's gonna seem unusual. My leadership style is one that values bad ideas. You heard me right. I'm someone who encourages everyone to approach problems and opportunities with ideation or idea generation. Anyone who brainstorms with any regularity or who engages in creative solutioning knows that not every idea is a good idea. In fact, most ideas are bad ideas. In my experience, there are way more bad ideas that emerge from the creative process than good ones. It's a numbers game. American chemist Linus Pauling was once quoted as saying, "The best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas." I couldn't agree more. You have to entertain a lot of outlandish, off-the-wall ideas on your way to a truly good one. Because I believe so strongly that bad ideas are part of the process, I think it's vital to be regularly hearing ideas from my team. When we're wrestling with a problem, I want to hear all the ideas, the bad and the good, the outrageous and the proven, the risky and the safe. Sharing ideas takes courage and makes you vulnerable, which are both absolutely necessary if you want to become a leader. Then, after those bad ideas are shared, even if we think we've found the solution in something else, I'm always tempted to play with those bad ideas a little more before we leave them. Take one idea off the wall and somebody says, that won't work. How do you know? Have you tried? Let's bounce that around. If somebody says, they'll never let us do that, have you asked? Or if somebody says about an idea, that's ridiculous, what would it take to be slightly less ridiculous? Way too often, a crazy idea is just a step or two beyond reasonable. If you walk it back a little bit, sometimes you find something truly exciting that's actually plausible. None of this discovery is possible, though, if we are not working in an environment that encourages bold thinking and open sharing of ideas. No idea can be great if it's never shared because someone's worried about looking foolish or making a spectacle of themselves. That's my most important goal as a leader, to encourage bold thinking and to welcome all the bad ideas that you're willing to share. Because I know that the path to a good idea is paved with countless bad ideas. I'm willing to walk that path again and again to show other people the way. Mr. Toastmaster.
Becky, thank you so much for sharing that speech with us. We certainly appreciate that. And I'd like to ask our timer for the timer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Becky spoke for 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. It really resonated with me, Becky, about bold thinking and asking the question, how do you know if this is possible? As I was watching a news piece, it made me think about driving, or at least the news piece was about the 500. There's going to be autonomous cars on the track. I believe on October the 23rd, there are various nonprofit or college teams that are going to get together, writing software to race these cars around the track. I believe there's $1 million first prize if you're able to get across the 12 laps that they need to do in less than 25 minutes, and you have to be the first one across within 25 minutes. Autonomous cars in themselves is an ideal that I thought that would never work. That's not something that you can do. We see the articles and the news pieces where people have been found driving their autonomous cars, or really not driving their autonomous cars, in the back seat. You really only hear about it when there's an accident. It's something that I never thought would be possible. I recently bought a newer vehicle last year. When I put the vehicle on cruise control, if it gets too close to a vehicle, it will slow down for me. Once the vehicle gets far enough or moves into the next lane, it will speed up for me. I really only need to signal and steer when the vehicle's in cruise control. I think it's about as close to autonomous driving as you can get without actually having autonomous driving. But it's those bold thinkers that have come up with those things. Thank you so much, Becky. At this time, if our evaluator is ready, we'll allow him to provide an evaluation to Becky's speech. Please help me welcome John.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and thank you, Becky, for allowing me to evaluate you today. I believe you know that you have been in this program long enough that your clarity, your vocal variety, your eye contact is all absolutely excellent. Very top-notch speaker in this club right now. And I've had the chance to see you speak 2 or 3 times now, so I know that today is not just, a single spectacle. You even handle being online well. you address almost the camera and not necessarily looking down at people's photos, so we can tell that you're engaged. If I was going to challenge you to try something even further advancing your skills for your next one, is that you know this group of people very well. And you might be able to provide examples in your speech that will draw the audience, even though they're not in the room with you, into the speech. One thing you did, when you first started, was you thanked Toastmaster, and I could tell you gestured at Brandon on your screen, and that pulled him in a little bit. At one point you said, "Get ready for this next part." And I felt immediately making sure I was looking at you. And I feel like those are great ways for, even when you're virtual, because it's so easy when it's virtual for people to get distracted, to be looking up their next part or not necessarily being fully engaged with you because we're not being held accountable necessarily. If you can find ways to be like, "Hey, Shweta, I know that you did this," she's going to get instantly pulled in and just that much more invested in your speech. When you are operating at the level that you're operating it with your speeches, that is what you use to take yourself right up to that next level, I feel. Because we're already interested. You speak beautifully. There's almost no filler words. I think I counted one or someone says after you had completed a sentence, which is absolutely minuscule, and nobody except for people with our trained ears are ever going to pick up on it. So that would be what I would say to you going forward. And that's my evaluation for you today. You knocked it out of the park, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. Thanks for sharing that feedback with Becky and the rest of the club. One of the other spectacles that we often see at the race are the celebrities that show up at the race over the years. I took a look at just a few of the people that have shown up at the race a few times over the years, and it was just really interesting to see some of the people that show up to the race, some of the people that just are there just to watch. One of the more interesting people that I saw that has been at the race over the years, Amelia Earhart. She showed up at the 23rd running of the race. I also saw that Shirley MacLaine was one of the celebrities that showed up. Now, I'm not sure if she attended the race in this life or some other lifetime. Only she can really answer that question. At this time, we'll find out what other spectacles will be presented to us in the form of table topic questions as I turn the meeting over to our table topic master for today, Kay.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I have never been to the Indy 500 race. I have hardly watched fully the whole race on the television when it was televised a day later, even though this time it was televised live. And we had some company who were interested. I saw just a glimpse of it here and there on the television. I saw Rahil's tire come up from his rear wheel and run around and bounce to another car. I guess in this greatest spectacle, some people just enjoy when there's an accident or some drama happening at the racetrack. Hopefully nobody gets badly injured or dies. And it has happened. I Googled it and there were 73 people who had lost their lives over those years, including drivers, spectators, and some of the people who work in the crew pit. Let me direct my first question to Kirk. I've never been to see the race. Have you been to see the race anytime? If not, what kind of experience you will imagine being at the race? Kirk?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I have been to the race twice, and they were very different experiences. I will briefly tell you about both, and I think you'll fully understand why and how they were very different. My first experience was the infield experience, which consisted of small little glimpses of really fast cars going by, punctuating, social and beverages and enjoyment. It was hot, it was fun, and after I'd done it once, I never needed to do that again. I could check it off my list. The next time came years later a good friend of mine, I shouldn't say a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, my wife's friend's father wanted to take me. He has 4 tickets that he's had forever. He gets the motorcade, police motorcade in. They go to a parking lot and get motorcaded in. Seats in turn 1 up underneath the awning, so you have shade. I had maybe 2 beverages. I had a turkey leg since I hadn't taken part in that spectacle yet. I had a great time. I actually watched the race. One of those safe accidents happened in front of us, which does add the drama and makes it a little more interesting than just going around in the oval. Overall, it was a really fun time. I'm glad it was my second time. I'm glad I did the infield social have fun thing first, that I did that second. I would probably go again if invited in that format, but I also don't feel the need to rush back there either. I feel like I got the full perspective. I got the infield, I got the primo seats. Maybe the next one is someone wants to bring me to a suite someday, and I'll take part in that to go full circle in the experience. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Kirk. In the Indy 500, when the race is ready to start, the announcer used to say, "Gentlemen, start your engine." Until 1977, when there was a first female driver that qualified. Her name Janet Guthrie. At that time, the announcer said, with the first female driver in the race, "Gentlemen, start your engine." My question is to Lauren. Do you know of any female race driver that you are fond of or you have heard about and you can tell us about?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I am aware of female drivers in the Indy 500. Most famously, I think, is Danica Patrick. I know there's a few others, but I can't think of their name right now. And I wonder if Danica Patrick, she seems to be a little bit more on the wild side. Maybe that's why she has a little more notoriety to her. I also think she's really memorable because she was sponsored by GoDaddy. So I remember seeing all of those commercials. And maybe that also helped with keep her sticking into my mind. I also saw this year that she was an announcer on the TV show I was watching, at least. So I think that's great that she's getting into some of the announcing and commentating on the sport. I think when it comes to women in racing, there's something that I thought was really interesting about this year's race. And I believe they have an all-female pit crew for one of the female drivers. And I can't remember the driver's name, but I thought it was awesome that there was an all-female pit crew. I actually used to work with a lot of racing teams back at my first job out of college. I helped them get around to their different racing events and helped them with scheduling their rooms and things like that. And it was all men, all guys. So I really love seeing more women entering the industry, whether they're drivers, whether they're a pit crew, whether they're announcers. I think that we'll start to see more of that as there's more opportunities available for women in this industry. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lauren. The female rider this year was Simone Di Silvestro. She's from Switzerland, and she had raced in the past too. There were 5 female race drivers one time. One didn't qualify, but 4 did start the race. That was in 2010. Now the race itself for the driver requires a lot of preparation, physical endurance. My question is for Ben. Can you describe the rituals to get prepared for the race?
Thank you, Kay. And I will take my own time. It is describing a ritual to get ready for the race. I'm not sure if that is a question for me as the fan or for the driver. I absolutely can see that there is a level of endurance for both. The race is long, not quite as long as it used to be, but certainly a long race. And I would imagine as the driver, there's a lot of, making sure that you eat well, you get good rest, you treat your body well, hydrate so that you can last that whole time. You're stuck in that car. I mean, those are a lot of G-forces you're pulling. It's banging your body around. It's bruising. If anyone's ever heard stories about Rick Mears and his feet, how they are all burnt up and just in bad shape, it's rough on those drivers. That's a lot rougher than I think people think. Oh, I'm just driving like a Sunday drive. No, not at all. As far as the fan, I think you certainly also need to prepare. Hydration is also important, as is getting a good night's rest if you can, depending on where you're camping or staying. You know, if you have a Kirk experience, you might not have had the best night's sleep the night before the first time you get there. It's hard to say, but you do need to prepare as a fan. Make sure you get your drinks cold, make sure you get your good friends around, make sure that you have your wings or turkey legs or whatever food that you need to consume prepared so that you're not missing the race. There always are things to think about when you're dealing with something as important as the greatest spectacle in racing. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Toastmaster, do we have time for another one? Do we have time for one more, or?
I think we can squeeze in one more.
Sweta, are you up to this? Do you have any
I can
favorite driver, race driver? If not into the racing, any other sports personality that is favorite of yours?
I am sorry, Madam Dual Topics Master, but we were trying to unmute mics and I could not hear your question fully. Could you please repeat that?
Okay, it's about you have a favorite race driver. If not, any other sports personality who is your favorite?
Mr. President, Madam Table Topics Master, and fellow Toastmaster, thank you for the question. I am not really a sports person, so I do not, unfortunately, cannot think of a favorite sports person right now. This morning, I did learn about one of the Indy 500 race car driver, Mario Andretti, I believe, who only won once, but was favored like 10 times, and he always ended up having some kind of car troubles and could never reach to the end point, which was very fascinating and funny. Well, not for him, I guess. And how people say that he has been on a curse for a while. I did find that very interesting. I also found that a lot of female car racing drivers have joined since I think 10 women have been on the race till now, and they started, the first woman I believe started on 1977, which was pretty early, looking at the rate of women advancement that we have seen till now. So that's all. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Thank you, Sweta. I'm sure it's very hard to win the race. I think there are only 4 people who have won the race 4 times, including this 2021 winner, Castanova. Let's have the timers report. Ben?
Thank you, Kay. Kirk spoke for 1 minute, 52 seconds. Lauren for 1 minute, 29 seconds. I spoke for 1 minute, 59 seconds. And Sweta spoke for 1 minute, 28 seconds.
Thank you, Ben. Good times. Who is going first in the evaluation? Brandon?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I had the opportunity to evaluate Kirk's response in regards to his race experience. Kirk, fantastic job in responding to that question. It's great that you had the personal experience to be able to draw on to give some feedback on that. I love the way that you answered your question. You were smiling the entire time. You seemed very engaged, and you could see the wheels turning as you were thinking about those two past experiences. I thought that you had great pauses throughout. Some of it was, I can tell you're just trying to recall or recant what experience that you were going to share with us next. I thought you had very good description in your response. We could picture ourselves being there with you, going through and seeing what you saw, and perhaps even having a taste of that turkey leg, which I'm sure was expertly cooked. The only thing I could really see in your response was that you're just looking up a few times as you're trying to come up with a response. And there was a couple of times where your hand gestures went outside of the frame, not really a big deal. What I really liked was the way that you had a contrast between one experience and another experience, the way that you brought those things together and shared that with us. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I also had the opportunity to evaluate Ben's response and his race rituals. Ben, I like the way that you addressed that question to start with, rather than clarifying which aspect Kay was asking about. I like the way that you decided to go ahead and give us your response on both parts of that. Could it be spectators? Could it be the racers themselves? I thought that you had great hand gestures. You had good head shakes in there as well. Good facial movement as well. It really spoke to what you were speaking about. I thought it was pretty thoughtful. Again, I would say the only thing that I could ding you on at all is just trying to come up with a little bit more to say, looking up as you were trying to provide information. The only other thing that maybe you could have done is provide a little bit of a summary at the end. But all in all, it was a great response. It was well timed. I thought it was very informational. I think we could all relate to the information that you were giving to us. Thanks so much for that. I'll hand it back over to our table topics master.
Okay, let's go to John for his part of the evaluation.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I am very glad that I am evaluating the even numbered ones, because it was right as Kurt was finishing speaking that I realized I'm supposed to be evaluating table topics, and I nearly made a spectacle of myself. Luckily, I did recognize that I should be, flipped my paper over and began taking notes when Lauren began to speak. Her question was, do you have a favorite female race car driver? You did an absolute wonderful job with your vocal variety. And I liked how when you got to the end of what you had to say about your favorite race car, you kind of started to pivot into being able to fill the time that you needed. You spoke about your college racing experience, organizing all female pit crews. Great way of just taking that question and expanding upon it. You could kind of pick up a little bit that you were doing that on the fly. I think if you had had the time to pause and think in the beginning, you may be able to have organized your thoughts. So you could have had like an intro, body, conclusion, wrapped it all together in a nice package with a bow. But overall, you did a wonderful job. Very few filler words. So that's my evaluation of Lauren. I also had the privilege to evaluate Shweta. We had a bit of a technical difficulty right in the beginning, and she didn't let that frustrate her. She very calmly and politely asked for the new question, which I thought was excellent. It's very easy to get frazzled, especially in this environment. So she's handled that well. Even after hearing the question, she still thanked the table topics master. She did have a few filler words, the ums, the ands, things that we expect from someone who's just getting started. I believe you know that and you're working on it. So it's interesting. I could look at her here or there. So I'm pivoting back and forth between the two. You know that about yourself, and you were also successfully able to pivot the question in a way that allowed you to answer it for the full required amount of time that you were asked to speak for. So all in all, good job. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, John. I'll give it back to our Toastmaster for the meeting, Brandon.
Thank you, Kay. Great questions for our table topics section here. Really appreciate that. Now we'll move on to our humorous greeter part of the meeting. Shweta, did you have something that you wanted to share with the group at all?
Yes, I do a short bit, but I can give it a try. Thank you, Mr. President and fellow Toastmasters. I'm Shweta Karel, the humorist / greeter for today. So Indiana Motor Speedway, it was built in 1909. It was built as an automobile testing ground to support Indiana's fast growing auto industry. It was started by 4 local people who pooled in all their money, and now today, even at 40% of capacity with around 135,000 fans, 2021 Indy was still the world's largest sporting event since COVID-19 pandemic began. When the first 500-mile race began, they called it International Sweepstakes. It took place on May 30th, 1911, and it had an winning average speed of under 75 miles per hour. And now the average speed is around 225 miles per hour. This event alone has inspired so many technological advancements in auto industry, with women, men, young, old, all participating in the race, millions of spectators watching this event live and broadcasted. It indeed is a celebrated, prestigious spectacle for all. Not only that, it also plays a huge role in Indiana's economy and helps spread the Indiana culture around the country and around the globe. Before I go though, I did hear Matthew McConaughey just bought NASCAR, and he is making all the drivers take opposite direction now. Now, instead of making left turns, they're all going, all right, all right, all right. With that, back to you, Mr. President.
Shweta, fantastic. Not only did we get information, you had humor in there as well. You covered it all. I really like that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Go ahead, Kirk.
Mr. Toastmaster, my computer's about to die and I've got painters upstairs. So if you wouldn't mind me going next in the event my computer
Go right
dies, I
ahead.
can get my general evaluation in. I apologize for this. It's going to be noisy if I take the computer up there. My general evaluation for today is that everyone did a fantastic job. We started just a little bit late, like usual, but I'm okay with that because it means that we're filling roles, and it means that you all are jumping in and filling in the gaps of things that we need. And that is one of the things I admire most about our group, is how we always fill in the gaps and always take care of the need. So thank you for all of that. Beyond that, I thought that, John, you gave an excellent evaluation of Becky's speech and gave a really, really meaningful way that she can further her speaking abilities, which is difficult. You can plateau and stall out at some point if you don't have that kind of feedback. I thought it was excellent, and you carry that over into your table topics evaluations as well. Brandon, I also thought you gave excellent table topics evaluations. Kay, I love the topics, especially the one you gave me, since I had tangible experiences to draw upon. You made it nice and easy for me today. Overall, I just thought they were good questions. They were on theme. They weren't overly difficult, but just challenging enough to get us thinking and get us practicing. What else do I have? John, you said pivot a couple times, and I just watched the Friends reunion, and all I could hear every time you kept saying it was pivot, pivot. Perfect. I loved it. It just made me laugh. And speaking of making me laugh, Sveta, the joke at the end, the punctuation, the exclamation point on your humorous greeter topic was just perfect. Great job to everyone. I'm going to hope my battery lasts, but in the event it doesn't, I am going to end there and hand it back to our Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Kirk. Great timing on that. Great thinking. I appreciate you doing that to allow the meeting to go forward without a hitch. With that, we will go on to our grammarians report and allow Lauren to tell us how we did today.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I didn't catch any filler words from you today, Mr. Toastmaster. Great job. Becky, I caught one single or somewhere around, but I didn't catch any in your speech. So great job on that. I know maybe John did, but I didn't hear them. So they didn't, I didn't pick them up. Ben, I didn't hear any for you today. Kirk, you had a couple ands for at the beginning intro. John, I got one one ah. Sweta, just a few ums and ahs. I had a couple filler words. And Kay, I didn't catch any for you either. I think the big thing for today is everyone used spectacle quite a bit. Brandon, Becky, Ben, Kirk, John, and Kay, you all used the word of the day. Brandon, you get the award because you used it 4 times that I counted. Great job. And Becky, I love that you included it in your speech. And then a few of us even included it in our table topics, which is always really impressive to me because I forget to do that. I liked Kirk that used the word punctuating, but that was the only word I really picked up today. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for listening in, helping us get better every time. I really appreciate that. Thanks to everyone that attended today's meeting. It was another great meeting. I thought that everyone was on point with the feedback that they provided, with the humor, with the information. I definitely walked away from today's meeting knowing more about the 500 than I knew before the meeting started. One thing that I'll do is, Ben, were you raising your hand?